Purdue takes a tough loss here at Mackey Arena against one of the best teams in the country. Michigan basically runs away with it, but we're going to break it down here on Boilers in the Stands starting right now. Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands post-game show. I am your host, Kraig Bowers Jr. Alongside me, as always, is Joe Jackson. Kraig Bowers will be joining us shortly. Possibly he's underneath talking with Painter and some of the players after Purdue falls, after Michigan comes into Mackey Arena and does what they do best, and that's pour in the buckets. And so if you're looking for a litmus test on how Purdue is going to find their way to a Final Four or win a national championship, and maybe those things for you are off the table, but regardless, this team still has those aspirations, but if they want to get there, they're going to have to find a way to beat these types of teams. And Michigan has all the firepower you possibly need. You can see it in warm-ups. Their size in person is unbelievable to look at, and they have it in so many different positions, and they can come at you so many different ways. And ultimately, how this game started felt like Purdue was ready to trade punches with them for 40 minutes. But then as soon as you slip up, as soon as you have that lapse for a 5-minute stretch, that's how Michigan's going to make you pay. And all of a sudden they're up 20 points on you. They're up 15 points on you. And you keep trying to chip away. And to the Purdue's credit, they never let go of the rope. They did get it, down to 10, under 10. They got it to 9 points at one point as the last few minutes were kind of waning off the clock, but it just wasn't enough. They put themselves in too big of a hole, and Michigan really just knocked down some big-time threes when they needed it the most. I will say the number one thing for me on takeaway from a positive side for the Purdue is Mackey Arena was unbelievable today. I've been to some big-time games here over the last 10 years, and honestly, the first 5 minutes of this game was the loudest I've ever heard Mackey. So they were ready. They were ready for this, and so there's been a lot of conversation around the Big Ten of, who's got the home court advantage, whose fan base is going to show up, and the Mackey Arena faithful showed that tonight. But it's about the team on the court, Joe, and we understand that they aren't a perfect team. They have flaws, and they're going to have to find a way to beat teams that have fewer flaws like Michigan, if they want to get to where they want to get in March.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan's the most complete team, the single best team, in my opinion, in the entire country, and it showed, right? You want to talk about real depth to a team, Michigan does. 9-player score, 7 players hit a 3. The other 2 that didn't hit a 3 had double-doubles, 2 players with 7 assists, go up and down the line, right? 6 different players with 10-plus points. Where I'm going to start, I'm sure Purdue fans will want to yell at me, like, whatever, go for it. Watching this game reconfirmed to me that Purdue's ceiling, to me, is a Final Four team that on any given night can win a national championship. And, how do you get there after this type of game? And it's just some of the fight that they had in the second half, some of the things that they were doing. Now, with that said, right, I do think that is still the ceiling of this team. This team has little to no margin of error when they play an elite team. You talked about giving up big runs. Purdue was up 11-10. Michigan then went on a 16-0 run over 4 minutes, and it was kind of just cooked from there. And Purdue, again, they did a good job. I honestly think they played better in the second half in totality probably than Michigan, although I understand game script and flow kind of plays into that a little bit too, where Michigan's just trying to run off the clock a bit. But that's where, this team has zero margin from error. TKR was doing what he could, and it wasn't like an A-plus TKR game, but probably an A- or B+ or something like that type game from him. I know Braden ends up with the number, the stat line looks fine. Purdue isn't going to make a Final Four if Braden isn't Superman or close to it. And in the first half, I thought he was really poor. Second half, he started getting a little bit better. I know he's first half, he still had 5 assists and 1 turnover. It wasn't like he wasn't doing anything, but it just felt very noticeable that he just wasn't quite in it from the start. And right. If Braden is, Purdue probably can. I don't know if I want to say they for sure win this game, but they have a legitimate chance to still win this game. I think it was a reminder to me that at the end of the day, right? Because now my focus is completely on March. And again, fans can yell at me for that. That's fine. I don't care. but like thinking ahead to March and thinking like, all right, to win a national title, you have to problem solve for 6 straight games, right? Nobody cares at that point what you did in the regular season. Nobody cares. Um, like obviously, I guess you care about scouting reports and that, but like for 40 minutes, you have to problem solve. And I think Purdue at least showed some capability of getting that today a bit. In terms of like second half defense, I thought was better. The second half offense, they figured out, all right, this is what we have to do, and we're just going to keep going with it. And a lot of that was TKR post ups. Again, there's just little to no margin of error when that happens. This team is so jump shot heavy and floater heavy that like when it's on, they're incredible. But when it's off, like I don't know how this team can specifically win. I know I said in the preview too, like I do still stand by like I think out of probably like maybe every single team in the entire country, I think Michigan's probably the single worst matchup you could find for them. With all the length, all the physicality, all the athleticism, double big shooters, pretty much everywhere who are also very willing to shoot. Like I think there is that aspect too. So, yeah, like I said, the look ahead now is to March, and how does this team win? Figure out a way to win 6 games in a row, and there's a lot of work to do. There's little to no margin of error for this team. I still think it's something that is possible, but also like this is a team that if like Braden plays like this, some of the support like if basically most players played like they did today, and TKR doesn't go superhuman for a little bit, like Purdue can lose in the second round too.
Yeah, I get that. I get where you're coming from. It's. I guess my question is in tonight's game, because I know we're going to get into it, but I saw you tweet, and so I kind of want to bring this to the table where you said against the best defenses in the country, you take what you can get offensively. Or you said basically talking about Michigan against the best defense in the country, talking about Michigan. Right now for Purdue, that's getting a guard switched onto TKR and letting him work. Sometimes you just have to feed it to your guy and live with the result. And like from my standpoint, I felt like they were baited into letting it be a TKR night. Michigan wanted that. So while you're saying okay, we're going to take what the defense gives us, I think it's more than just that's what they're giving you and this is your mismatch. I think it's like, hey, if you're Michigan, like TKR played really well. But I also am sitting here going, at what cost? Because once Michigan starts going on their runs, at some point you've got to kind of match what they're trying to do too. Do you agree with that or not? Because for me, it just felt like, especially once they got down 16, 18, 20, it just felt like you were basically, I mean, I get they got it down to 10 or 9, and maybe it becomes a bigger blowout if you go the other way. But from my standpoint, I felt like they were baited into just keep going to TKR instead of trying to turn up the intensity in terms of how they're running their sets, get the ball kicked around, and start to find shooters. That was my standpoint from it, and I'm just curious from your perspective on that.
I think there's truth within that, what you said, for sure. Like Michigan at the end of the day is fine living one-on-one in the post with TKR floaters and push shots and Braden pull-up twos. Like they are fine with that. It's one of those where like Purdue's also fine with it. And like it would be awesome if Purdue could have gotten other stuff going, but at the same time, like I guess the basis for where my tweet was coming from was more like yeah, Purdue could try to run some like off-ball action and get Lawyer and CJ, but like Michigan just switches everything. There's no advantage there. All right, you can run pick and roll. Braden played like a D+ game. Like that's not there. You're kind of it's more of just to me like running out of options. I don't think you want to really run in this game because that's just playing right into Michigan's hands. And so to me, it was more of just like kind of running down the checklist of like, all right, what does Purdue love to do offensively? They love to run pick and roll. Okay, well, Braden's not really there. Okay, they love to get shooters open. Well, Michigan's just switching everything off ball and they have a ton of length. So like that's you can maybe you can force up some threes, but I guess the offensive rebounding improves, so maybe that would be a point in like why you would try to get up a little bit more threes. And I do think they probably should have, especially with like 5-6 minutes left. Right, but so that's kind of where I think it was coming from more. Is like at the end of the day, you could work incredibly hard to like hopefully get like a decent look from three or a decent Braden pull up. Or you could just take what Michigan was giving you, switch a guard, let TKR go to work and just kind of live with the results. And um, yeah, like I don't think like if Painter had to do it over, maybe he would try to mix more stuff in. I don't know. But just from kind of how I was viewing the game, that was kind of my thought process of just like, yeah, this Michigan defense isn't like giving them a ton. Plus Purdue's off. Like at some point, like I especially I think in that moment of the game too, where like right Purdue was keeping it in that 12 to 16 range. Like that's what they needed. And then you just had to try to get some stops, get some rebounds, and they couldn't. And I don't know, things kind of pile on. I think again, it goes back to the margin of error. Like again, at their ceiling, Purdue to me can beat any single team in the entire country. However, the drop off is very quick for this team if they are not playing at their peak, because they rely so much on some tough shot making and right their defense is principle based and not individual defender based. So it's just again goes back to that to me of like you kind of just have to like you needed TKR. TKR I think played very well in this game. You needed if that was the formula that they were going with, you needed TKR to be like superstar TKR and not just incredible TKR. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, and you needed rebounds, right? Because the
Yeah,
run that they went on to go up, from like you said, Purdue was up 11-10, and this place was like a jet engine. It was
it was.
insanely loud. Um, Michigan silenced the crowd as best they could by going on that 16-0 run that you mentioned. And Andy Buck here in the chat provides the stats. Purdue 4 of 10 in the first half from three. Michigan 8 of 16. And this isn't the first time a team has come into Mackey this year and shot really well from three. And we've talked about this. And I've stopped saying like because Painter talks so much about playing the percentages. And a lot of times they're going to give you the threes, right? Like as Michigan as a team for the season, you know this better than me, Joe, but they shoot what? As a team for the season around like 35% from three. And tonight they
30,
were shooting
36, yeah.
right. And tonight they were shooting like over 50% for the majority of the game. And so
Yep.
like from a statistical standpoint, you're like, well, they don't do this. But against Purdue, these outliers, whether it's Iowa or at Mackey or Illinois with Wagler, or you've got Iowa State earlier in the year, you can't talk about, well, this is outlier. We're gonna let them have that because 9 times out of 10 they're gonna shoot to their average. Not against Purdue, because they are giving them wide open threes for a myriad of reasons. Whether they're switching and they can't get to it, or if they're not getting the rebound and now it's a spray and shoot and a guy is left wide open. And hey, Michigan, I have less of an issue tonight with some of the rebounds they couldn't chase down versus against some of those other teams because Michigan's length is insane. And so they're able to continue to tap that ball, make it a loose ball until they corral it down and then they kick and find their guy. And sometimes that's just the luck of the bounce of the ball. So I wouldn't say it was for lack of effort. I thought Purdue's effort tonight was fine. It didn't look like they like let go of the rope like they did at IU, and I was livid after that game. That's not what tonight was. Tonight was like playing with the big dogs. Tonight was like playing against UConn all over again. Like that's what it felt like, right? Like a team that just is like got a bunch of like NBA level big time players, this huge, big time in talent, big time in size. And Purdue's kind of like the little engine that could, who you're getting what you can get from your big man, whether it's Edey against UConn or TKR against UConn, and then everybody else you're just hoping for the best, and you didn't get the best from the rest of them. That's what it felt like to me.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I had legitimately the same thought of like in my time covering Purdue, whatever 3 years, 4 years, something like that. This was only the second game where I definitively thought during the game, it's just like, oh yeah, Purdue is just not as good of a team as this team. Like, yeah, on their best night, they can beat this team. But like in terms of caliber and of talent and play, like Purdue is just not in Michigan's class. And the only other time I felt that was the UConn championship game where it was just kind of like, yeah, Purdue didn't play bad in that championship game. It's just they weren't good enough to win that. And I do
Which
think
is really
I had that
disappointing
exact
'cause
thought today.
Which is really disappointing because I was really hoping there wasn't going to be that team this year. Like, you don't know because of the transfer portal and all this stuff. Like, you don't know how teams are going to look. We knew how Purdue was going to look going in, and they've showed up for the most part. I mean, they've had some games that weren't to the level of our expectation. I wouldn't, again, list tonight as one of those nights. Michigan is just one of these teams that's at that UConn level. And the Big Ten hasn't won a national championship since 2000. And I'm fine with you saying that Purdue still, at their best, can have that potential of getting there. But it's clear Michigan is, to me, and I haven't watched as much Arizona as I have Michigan. I have watched more than a couple Iowa State games, including last night against Houston. That was an excellent game. But I would put Michigan, I'm right there with you. They are the national championship favorites right now. They showed that tonight. They were in complete control of this basketball game. And so now you know. Now you know if you're Purdue. You didn't have the luxury of playing UConn during the regular season to know what it would be like if you have to play them in the tournament. Let's hope they do have an opportunity to play them in the Final Four. And if they do, now they know. But as you pointed out, you're going to have to play your best. And even if they're not at their best, it's still going to be a game because they're that good. And that's just the reality. That's just the reality.
100%. Like, right, Purdue, I mean, I haven't bracketology and all that won't have updated. I'm sure Purdue will still probably be a 2 seed after today. They're still number 8 in KenPom. They're a top 25 defense. They're the number 2 offense in the country. Maybe, right, expectations play a little bit into it of like Purdue hasn't met expectations. It's also, this is why, for anybody that's watching video, it's why I don't wear glasses, but I wore the glasses. It's just because they reflect, and then I feel like you're just staring into my screen when you're looking into my eyes, but then when I take them off, I can't see any of the stats that I want to see. So, I mean, I guess if that's my biggest complaint, I got nothing to complain about. But yeah, like that's how this game was. Like Purdue is not at that level. I think part of the beauty of March Madness is that, right, it is in 7-game series that they play. If Michigan and Purdue played a 7-game series, Michigan's a pretty heavy favorite. In a single game sample size on a neutral floor, obviously Michigan's still going to be the favorite by a good bit, but like all it takes is Braden going crazy one game. And I said that in the preview, right? I thought for Purdue to realistically win, Braden was going to have to be Superman. And he started trying to do it a little bit at the ends, but he wasn't. And honestly, even like with him being far from an A game, like Purdue at least had, is a punter's chance? Is that a saying? I don't know. They had like
puncher's chance.
Puncher. That makes way more sense.
Not punter.
I know. I was thinking, I was like, why punter doesn't make sense. Puncher's chance of like at least trying to make a game. Obviously, at no point was it ever like, oh, Purdue's going to win this. I don't know. It's one of those where it's just there are limitations to this Purdue team, and they were on display today.
So sticking with Braden, I know we're going to take a break here soon, and we got to get into all the different breakdowns that we normally do. Try to keep this show decently tight, but I'm sure it won't be. But in that stretch in the first half where they just could not corral this game, you know, Braden doesn't have any points in the first half. He gets his first bucket at like the 18-minute mark of the second half. From a lot of people's standpoint, it felt like Braden Smith got benched in the first half. A, do you agree with that? And B, do you think that was the correct decision?
Yeah, honestly, I yes to both. I thought he got benched, and we can pull up the rotation here really quick. Now I got to put my glasses back on. There it is, the rotation, and then I actually have to pull up a copy that I can physically see. Yeah, so I mean, he gets his normal rest for the first few minutes, right around the 9-minute mark left in the first half. Nothing crazy, and then he came out, and I think he had a turnover, like a missed defensive rotation, and maybe a missed pull-up right in that stretch, and he got pulled again. And right in that time was kind of the Mayer, like that stretch was the best Omer Mayer has probably played in a Purdue uniform. It was the biggest reason Purdue wasn't down 25 at that point, probably. So I do think it was just trying to refocus him, and that's, to me, probably the single most concerning thing about not just today, but like the last handful of games, I feel like as well. And I understand Braden's got the bumps and bruises, and honestly, I feel like he went through a bit of this stretch last year too to close out the season, and then right at the end, he just turned it up again. Braden is the single player on this entire roster who Purdue cannot afford to just take 10 minutes off or not be in the game for 20 minutes mentally. Right. TKR, Fletch, CJ, etc., Clough, like you can figure it out because you have Braden. You cannot have Braden be at that level and expect to win against great teams. And it's not like it's been every game, right? Like against Illinois, Braden was absolutely phenomenal. He was the only reason that Purdue had any chance. Iowa State, Purdue, Braden Smith was quietly really good in that game, and guys just couldn't make shots. But like the IU game, if I remember correctly, it felt like Braden was uncomfortable in the first half. The UCLA game, it felt like Braden was uncomfortable for a while. Even some of these close games, like it felt like Braden was just uncomfortable for a while, and that's just not something I ever expected to see for Braden, especially kind of this late in the season. Now,
well, what did you think of the matchups of the people they put on Braden? You know, even on both ends of the court, I thought that was interesting to watch that take place too.
Yeah, and that is something that like I thought also that's part of why I think Michigan's such a bad matchup is like they can throw Yaxel on Braden, and in my opinion, Yaxel is, if he's not the single best defender in the entire country, he's right near the top, and he's one of the most
crazy, dude. He's as big as he could play center.
Yeah,
like you know what when Yaxel and Braden were guarding each other, that reminded me the college version of Derrick Rose versus LeBron James. Like that's what it reminded. Like they're both very talented, but like when they had to face each other in the Eastern Conference Finals years ago, 2011, like just the size difference just creates so many problems for the smaller player. They're both talented, but one guy can get to his shots a little easier. One guy's going to make your passing lanes and your shooting a little tougher, and it all comes down to length. It has nothing to do with skill. They're both insanely skilled. But when you have that kind of size and length, you're going to make things easy for yourself on the offensive end, and you're going to make life a living hell for whoever you're guarding on the defensive end.
Yeah, and Michigan can do that. Like they can afford to just say, hey, yeah, so go guard him. And then, right, Michigan plays a very heavy switch defense. So then, right, it's switching Merez Johnson, which still isn't the easiest matchup. Or you get like Roddy Gale or Nimari Burnett. Both are 6'5" with some length. Like this Michigan team can just kind of keep throwing bodies at you and could keep throwing bodies at Braden. And I do think that's part of what made him a little uncomfortable. I also noted just in my personal notes throughout the game, like it felt like my exact quote, and obviously this ends up being incorrect. I would say I probably did this about 10 minutes into the first half. With my exact note, word for word, was he seems to just be letting the game unfold early. Wouldn't be shocked if he tries to take over in the second half. It felt like the first half he was trying to just feel it out a bit, but then we never got the chance for him to really take over, and it was just because he felt uncomfortable, in my opinion. And again, it's not like Braden was like played the worst game of all time, but when we're talking about Purdue at this elite level, Braden's one of those players that like he can't even afford to have a B game, honestly, most games. Like, and maybe that's unfair pressure on him or whatever, but like in my opinion, he is that incredible of a player that he deserves that. He deserves to have that pressure and has to perform.
100%. The one thing I'll say, and I probably have to go back and watch this game to really get a true feel when I'm at Mackey, you know, not that anyone really cares, but it's just a different way I watch it. Whereas if I'm at home, I'm obviously locked into the TV. When I'm at the stadium, we have 2 seats at press row where we're currently sitting right now, but I personally kind of roam. I go to different vantage points and watch the game from different ways to try to, you know, kind of take it in. That's my role on this team, but it kind of changes the way I'm able to kind of view the very nuanced moments of the game, the way I can analyze it at home. And the one thing I'll say, but I don't want to overspeak on how the first half or even the second half went for Braden, but against Iowa, because I wasn't able to be a part of that post-game show, but what I found to be a little different in that game for Braden was, like, I feel like over the last month and a half or so, like, and maybe for the majority of his career, he kind of floats. Like, his style of play is to kind of survey, you know, gracefully and, like, float through the pick and roll and float into the paint to try to, like, see how the defense – like, he wants everything to kind of come slowly to him. But against Iowa, I felt like he turned up the dial with how fast he was going. And I thought that created pressure on the defense to make faster decisions to him. Instead of him reacting to the defense now I just felt like he put the emphasis on Iowa to make faster decisions, and then he was spreading the ball to everybody. So I almost feel like not just this game, but every game going forward, I just feel like pace is so important, and you can't always go a million miles an hour. I understand that. But I feel like sometimes he's going a tick too slow, and it's helping the defense kind of, while Braden's going to get you at some point. But if he can turn it up a notch, I think that's going to cause the defense to make more mistakes. And when he slows it down sometimes, I think that kind of helps them a little bit. While he's still going to dissect you, they can recover a little easier. I don't know if that makes sense, but that was just something I was thinking about when I watched the Iowa game.
No, I definitely get what you're saying. Like Braden's at his best when he can kind of just let plays develop, because then he's just going to pick you apart every time. Against Michigan, you don't have that luxury quite as much, right? And so yeah, being able to have different changes of paces, and I do like it felt like he just didn't quite have his burst that he normally has, which also plays a part of it today into it, I think, as well. Yeah, like I don't know, like.
Somebody's asking in the chat, or I've seen a few people say he was sick. Is that true? I didn't know. I didn't
think that's
know
a Kraig,
this was
Kraig question, maybe when he gets back,
that's a Kraig
got
question.
something from
Right,
Poster.
we'll wait on Kraig.
I don't know. I'm not tapped in like that.
Yeah, I didn't hear any of that, but it was for Kraig. Final question before we take a break, because this is the other big kind of storyline of the game. If it was a game at any point, when it was, the flagrant foul was a big moment in the game, a big swing. What was your kind of viewpoint of that? Did you think it was the right call? Because obviously it kind of changed the complexion of the way Purdue could play the rest of the night.
I'm gonna be real. Like, I still don't actually know what was called. Like, and even
I think he tripped him. Is that what they're saying? Clough.
Oh, it was on Clough.
It was on. I think. I mean, correct me if I'm
wrong.
Oh
no, you're right, because Clough came out. That's kind of my answer though. Is like, I legitimately, and not like I just didn't really get to see much replay and stuff, and like couldn't really hear the.
Okay, Salty B saying called tripping on Benter, and then.
Do we remember what time this kind of happened at?
It was like 10. I'd say like 10 minutes in the first half. You'll find it. Well, maybe maybe I shouldn't have put us on the spot. Like, look at us not knowing what the hell. I mean, it was that loud in here though. Like when they'd make calls, whether somebody was calling a timeout or if there was a foul on the court, it was on Clough. Okay, see?
Yeah.
But it was so loud in here that you didn't know what the calls were. You didn't know when they were calling a timeout.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy tonight. I'll give them that. Even all the way to the end of the game, like they were like down 11 with 30 seconds, and the crowd was like still cheering as if Purdue had a chance. I'm like, what are we doing here? And then Painter reviewed the shot. I was like, what are we doing? Are we simulated? Did Painter tell him, like, let's pretend we're down 4 and simulate, trying to get back?
Yeah.
Like, was that what that was, like, practice? Because I didn't really get that at the end.
So, I mean, algorithm, everything's probably listened to us or whatever. I just opened Twitter, and like the literal first tweet is Purdue's Oscar Clough's foul. He was upgraded to a flagrant 1. Do you agree with the call? And like, I'm trying to watch this replay, and like, so they called tripping on Clough. Oh, out there.
Yeah. Salty B's in the chat saying later they played it back and Hummel said Benner. I don't know. It was dumb either way. So whatever. Obviously, we'll wait.
Like, I don't think that call changes the game at the end of the day, but like, I still don't actually know even watching the replay, I don't know what.
No, it doesn't change the game, but it doesn't change the game. But that was a big momentum swing. The other momentum swings I'd say were, in the first
single defensive rebound in the first half.
Yeah, but I would also say the other thing that happened a couple times was when they started to go on a little run or felt like they might get some momentum in the first half. Fletcher took a pump and then a 3. it felt a little rushed. I didn't hate that one, but then in the second half where they could cut it to 10 or 11, the transition one from almost half court, I think Painter was going to throw a chair into the stands. He was so upset.
Yeah.
Those two were tough. And then there was another. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to jump. Like, it's not like a specific play, but like, I do feel like legitimately every single time Purdue went on any sort of little run, Michigan just had an answer. And honestly, like, the Purdue's defense wasn't good. I'm not saying that. I don't think it was like quite as bad as probably what the final stats indicate. Like the open threes, I felt like a lot of them came off of kickouts. I thought they did a decent job for the most part of contesting, like, or at least like not leaving guys wide open. I guess they left Yaxel once that I remember. But like, that this Michigan team can shoot. I just thought every single time it was, Cadeau, like it was in spurts too. Like, honestly, I shouldn't even say threes. It was like the first 8 minutes or 10 minutes was Michigan getting every single offensive rebound possible. And those were some kick out threes. Those were some putbacks, etc. Then there was a stretch where it was like a Daimara in the post and Purdue had legitimately no answer for him. And then you come out in the second half and Purdue's starting to get a little mojo offensively and Cadeau hits like 2 threes. He got into the paint multiple times. It was just kind of like, once Purdue solved maybe one part of the problem, is like Michigan just had another one to throw at them. And at some point, Purdue just ran out of answers, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they got into a rhythm shooting threes. Some of them were open, but then there was a few that the hand was in the face and they still knocked them down. And that's the talent that Michigan possesses, but that's why you can't let them get into a rhythm. That's why you got to corral those rebounds so you can avoid those wide open threes. You got to do your best not to get it fall into rotation. And that's just kind of what Michigan forces you to do with the mismatches across the board that they have. So let's take a quick timeout. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, okay, real quick, and then we'll take a little break. Like if I was to go back and snap my fingers and change one thing that I think like legitimately could just win Purdue the game, I do really think if they could just get defensive rebounds in the first half, this is a completely different ballgame. Like completely different. I think it was, I believe, 14 second chance points in the first half for Michigan. If I'm looking correctly, I'm going to quickly double check my stats. 14 second chance points in the first half and only 2 in the second half for Michigan. They get defensive rebounds in the first half. I don't know if they win this game, but it's coming down to the final possession.
Yep. Trent Osman says missing 4 bunnies at the rim and allowing 4 second chance threes for Michigan was the 20-point gift. And that's how runs happen. And you got to get rebounds. Especially this team, especially this Purdue team. And while Zach Edey was front row, he wasn't able to get on the court to help that out. But it was good to see Zach in Mackey Arena tonight. So let's take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll try to go through some individual play. Or if Joe's got anything for the board, Kraig might join us here in a little bit. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Appreciate everyone tuning in to Boilers in the Stands post-game show. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsors.
Hey folks, quick shout out to our new sponsor that's making it easier and shinier than ever to keep your ride looking fresh. Introducing Remington Auto Wash, your locally owned and family-operated car wash located 30 minutes north of Purdue University in Remington, Indiana. Whether you're in a rush or love doing it yourself, they've got you covered. Touchless automatic bay, perfect for a fast, scratch-free clean with no brushes, no worries. Self-serve bays for the hands-on car lovers who want to wash, rinse, and shine their way. High-powered vacuums, perfect for getting your interior looking as good as the outside. Clean water, top-quality soaps, and equipment that is run by real people right here in the community. Swing by Remington Auto Wash and support a local business that cares about your car just as much as you do. Open 24 hours a day at the corner of U.S. Highway 24 and 231 in Remington, Indiana. That's Remington Auto Wash, where clean cars and local pride go hand in hand.
Shout out to Remington Auto Wash, and shout out to all you here tuned in after a tough loss for the Purdue Boilermakers here at Mackey. They've had a couple of those, more than a couple here this year, which we're not used to. So we'll see how Purdue can bounce back here coming up on Friday when they take on their rivals, the Indiana Hoosiers, looking for some payback in that regard. So, Joe, where do you want to take this next? I don't know if you got anything for the board, if you want to go right into team stats and player stats and see where we're at.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything specifically on the board. Because at the end of the day,
you just want to draw somebody that's really tall on the board.
Yeah, I'll go get Edie and try to get him on the show, and just be like, Purdue had this size or Michigan had this size. But I more just like, I think at the end of the day, there are schematic things, and I'll pick up on them more. Like, admittedly, just with how the environment was, like I did my best with the X's and O's, and I obviously still try to pick up on stuff. Definitely will pick up a lot more on the rewatch. But I do think like just some of the intangibles is what kind of lost Purdue this game, and it's not necessarily as much stuff I can draw on the board. It's Michigan hitting. I know Michigan got plenty of open looks, but like Michigan hitting tough threes when they needed. Michigan getting offensive rebounds. Michigan getting every single loose ball. Michigan making all the free throws in critical moments. Like just all those little things added up to me, and all contributed. So I think we can kind of jump into some of the stats. Or, I mean, we already put the rotation chart. I'll just throw the rotation chart up really quick, just in case people.
Well, we did it earlier, but you can do it again.
Oh, yeah. I guess the only thing I'll call out is so Clough doesn't start the second half because of the foul trouble. Purdue also, Painter went offense defense immediately in the second half. Like any dead ball, he got in his offensive lineup if they had the ball, and his defensive lineup if Michigan had the ball. I do think that's just a testament to like how much Purdue was valuing every single possession. Like that Painter thought it was worth to gain any marginal edge that he could to try to come back. So more just putting it back up here for people that I don't know if anybody like screenshots this and saves them or anything, but figured I'd give people the chance to
I like it. It looks nice.
Thanks. I do my best. I try.
Yeah, you are great. You are great. And there was a lot of people here today, and Field of 68. And, Robbie obviously had his bobblehead night. I got to talk to Robert Ory, but everybody knows the greatness that is Joe Jackson. That is the truth. You are the legend of Mackey, my friend. So, yeah, let's get into team stats. Of course, I mean that. Let's get into team stats, and then we'll move on to some player breakdowns.
Am I pulling up these stats?
I thought you were frozen. Yeah, if you don't mind. I don't know.
Yeah, there they are. My bad. There we go. So, gotta get my bearings. So Michigan they do win the rebounding battle 39-31. Purdue gets 14 offensive rebounds, Michigan 13, but if you look at like by the percentage, Michigan got 43% of their misses, where Purdue only got 35%. Also, Michigan gets 16 second chance points, Purdue 13. It was kind of a tale of two halves, I think, in that area. 32 paint points for Purdue and 28 for Michigan. Maybe not something that was totally expected coming into this game, but Michigan goes 13 of 23, which is 56%, 57%. Purdue goes only 8 of 26, 31% granted. I think they were 6 of 15 at one point and then kind of started forcing, so 2 of 11 to close the game from 3. 12 assists for Purdue. I would assume that's a season low off the top of my head. 24 assists on 30 makes for Michigan. 14 turnovers for Michigan, 6 for Purdue. But Purdue, I mean, they had 22 points off turnovers. It was definitely more just struggling in the half court. 18 of 20 from the free throw line for Purdue, 18 of 23 for Michigan. 34 bench points for Michigan, 15 for Purdue. I feel like that's probably another big one. So that I'd say those are kind of the major stats. I don't know if you have anything that stands out to you.
Yeah, I mean, Purdue shot almost 70. They shot 69 shots tonight.
Yeah, they took 12 more.
Michigan shoots 57 shots, but Michigan shoots 57%. Like, if you'd have told me that Purdue was going to have 12 more shots than them in this game with the efficiency that we understand both offenses have, you definitely would have thought this was going to be a closer affair. So, it's tough, man. And like you said, the rebounds, I know Painter, that's going to be the first thing he says, right? You can't be out rebounded, and you got to do everything you can to have that battle a little more even. So, 39-31, you get, the offensive rebounds were about even, but it didn't feel like that in the first half, I'll tell you that. So, and like you said, the assists certainly stand out as well. But, Michigan just had complete control of this game throughout.
Yeah, and I think the assist goes back to like Michigan being able to switch pretty much everything. And right, they turned it into a 2-on-2 game or a 1-on-1 game at some points. And right, that's just going to naturally lead to fewer assists. Also, when you're not making threes, like that's also going to generally lead to fewer assists. So that's definitely part of the equation in that
that's
one.
the other thing too, right? Because so like to go back to what we said at the start of the game or the show, they wanted it. We're gonna let you have TKR 1-on-1, and TKR wasn't passing it out because he's identifying I got 1-on-1. I'm gonna take it to the rim, but that means he's not kicking out. There was only one time in the first half I was a little frustrated. He got an offensive rebound, and there were open guys on the 3-point line, and he went back up and he missed it. And I was like, man, you got that. You don't have many opportunities for open threes. You got to kick that. But easy for me to say from the stands.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that just. Yeah, I got nothing to add on the top of that.
Yeah. So, all right, well, let's get into player breakdowns, and we'll try to put a bow on this, judiciously.
Yep. I mean, I feel like we got to start with TKR. 27 points, 12 rebounds, including 7 on the offensive side. 12 of 26, but 12 of 24 from 2, 3 of 3 from the free throw line. I feel confident saying there was not a single Purdue player on the floor who wanted this more than TKR. And again, I don't think it was an A-plus TKR game. I do think without TKR, Purdue loses by 25 today, probably. We haven't, other than the IU game, and it's really, I guess it's come in 2 losses. There's, I guess, been these 2 games now where TKR kind of realizes, like, all right, somebody's got to make something happen, and he's taken it upon himself to do so. And again, he missed a couple bunnies early, and that was big. Like, he started 3 for 9, I think, from the field or something like that, if I remember, and then really started getting it going. And maybe if he makes a couple of those, things can get switched a little bit, right? A bunch of what ifs from this game. What if Purdue just makes as many threes as Michigan does, and right, just a different ball game? But I don't know. Like, I think it's a simple analysis for me on TKR. You wish he made a couple more of the bunnies, but overall, like TKR was the one that was fighting more than any other person, I think, on the floor for Purdue throughout the entire game.
I mean, the crowd stayed into it, and the reason they did is because TKR was the only one keeping them in it. So I can sit here and say woulda, coulda, shoulda, and point to, did they get baited into that style of play? Well, the bottom line is, while I do feel like they were somewhat baited into TKR or bust on offense, TKR still got his. And I think the one thing I will see from this game, because like if we're going to compare it to Edey versus UConn, Edey also showed up against UConn. It's just the other guys didn't knock down threes. They couldn't get stops on defense because you're playing an elite team. But Edey showed up the same way TKR showed up tonight. So I would say the one thing you can take away from that performance from TKR is not every team is Michigan, right? But now you know that if you need to clear out and let TKR get his, like he can go back to the TKR that we knew from last year. That was what tonight was him showing I can still be the TKR that I was last year, right? I've been as hard. I can be hard on TKR at times. I think his style of play, he's like a force of nature. And sometimes like he gets out of control. There's a little too much physicality, and he gets over and he kind of loses himself a little bit. But at the same time, like he does kind of show you that unstoppable motor and that ability to get buckets when you need them. It may not be the most conventional way, but he's gonna get those buckets. So, I would say tonight was a positive for him going forward, and you still see him, scrapping at the end of the game. I know he's been talking a lot about Rodman lately, but you're seeing him scrapping at the end of the game for balls on the ground. So, like, he's still your leader on this team, and I think tonight kind of showed you he can get you some offensively, because there was a point a few, like 2 weeks ago, where I was like, hey, why aren't we posting up more? Well, they did tonight, right? So I've been complaining about it both ways. But TKR showed, like, hey, if you give it to me, feed the post, as Joe likes to say, TKR is going to get it done for you. So, I go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like, and maybe it's a little revisionist history or whatever, like TKR has probably been Purdue's best player over the last 5 games. I would think. I would have to like actually go back. I don't remember specifically what like Braden did in the 5 games, but I mean, over the last 5, it's not always the scoring, right? So he had 7, 12, 6, 12, and then 27. But 10 rebounds, 8 rebounds, 19 rebounds, 12 rebounds, 12 rebounds. I don't know. It's in a game, obviously, where Purdue fans are going to be disappointed, and rightfully so. That TKR, like you said, having that ability to just do this is something that like Purdue will need in March. There's going to be some game in March that Braden doesn't have it going. Threes aren't falling, at least for even if it's a 10-minute stretch. And like Purdue kind of reminded again, okay, we can rely on TKR for 10 minutes. Like get him the ball. And maybe he's not going to win you the game in those 10 minutes, but he's going to keep you in the game. And then you kind of maybe have to wait for, Braden to come back or something like that. But that's like, I think that's the biggest positive.
The other takeaway from this game was how the hell did Northwestern have them up by 6? They were up 16 on Michigan. Like that's crazy. And I right?
Northwest, it was one of Michigan's biggest flaw is that they have random 20 minutes. Especially against some weaker opponents where they just like don't really care about basketball. It's not don't care, but like they do not focus at all. And that was a major 20-25 minutes of just not focusing against Northwestern, and then they kind of snapped into it. It's one of those things that when you're that good, you can get away with it more. But also like if Michigan does lose in the tournament, I would bet that's a big reason why.
Good to know. Hopefully that happens.
They were going to be ultra focused for this one, with some of the stuff the paint crew and all that was saying, and it was crazy loud in here. Dusty May said he's had this game circled since the schedule came out, given how Purdue just destroyed Michigan here last year. It was very low probability that Michigan was going to come into this game unfocused.
All right, well, let's move it around the horn. Who else you got?
Do you have anybody you like specifically want to go to next?
No, no. Go ahead.
Let's just go to Braden. We've talked about him a bunch. I don't think we need to like harp as much on him for this one. 20 points. Like he still does have 20 points, 6 assists, 3 turnovers, 4 steals, a rebound, 2 of 7 from 2, 2 of 6 from 3, and 10 of 10 from the free throw line. Like, I'll throw it to you. Do you have anything more on Braden that you kind of want to put out there that maybe we haven't said already?
Nope. I think my only observation, like I said, is I think he needs when he's going downhill. I want him to change his speed up. Like a pitcher. Sometimes they come to they get on the bump and they go quick, and then other times they slow it down, right? Like I from a pace standpoint, I feel strongly after watching that IU game that I think he needs to take it to that next gear a little more here. Now that we're getting to the end of the year and I've seen it through its totality of the season, like I know he wants to, kind of float and let the defense kind of come to him, take it right to him and force them to make mistakes, from a coverage standpoint and sometimes speed it up a little more. That to me, I think is what I saw in the Iowa game, and I get he's trying to survey the scene, but I just really feel strongly that if he ticks it up a notch here, I think that's going to cause the trickle-down effect that's going to get open buckets underneath the rim and open buckets on the perimeter.
Yeah. I don't think I have much more. Like I've been hard on Braden. I think he deserves to he's so good that he's at that level. I still trust in Braden. I still believe in him. Just one of those games like he has to be good, and this was one of them that he wasn't. So
let's talk about Omer Mayer, because I did think like I'm seeing more and more from him. I've also noticed over the last couple games, and I think it was against Iowa, like how he is in the huddle. Like I'm seeing some good leadership qualities from him. Like he seems very outspoken. He brings energy. He's got size. You watch him walking next to Braden. Like he's much bigger than Braden. He knocked down some big threes here tonight. We all know his shooting prowess. But, I think Omer Mayer probably isn't what we expected when we talked about him when they signed him in the summer. But I also am starting to see, like, okay, with some more development, like this guy's going to be really good for this program.
Yeah, the signs are there, and I do think today was. I do think that stretch was probably its best stretch in a Purdue uniform that I can remember, and maybe there's been one other that I'm kind of misremembering, but like he was. Let's bring up. I'll read up his stat line. We can kind of just jump to him. Mayer 8 points, 3-6 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, and a rebound, 2 assists, and only 1 turnover. And honestly, this was a game where I thought that like the turnovers could pile up if he played heavy minutes, and they didn't. Also, I want to point out why plus minus is meaningless for individuals without a lot of context. Mayer was minus 18 in this game. I don't like that's basically the worst on the team. I don't think that anybody would come away from this saying that he was the worst player. But yeah, like he's on a team where I think it's fair at times to question who really is the vocal leader of this team, right? Like, and I know we're not in the locker room, so it's only from like what we see on the floor. And Lawyer is that. I think TKR is very much a leader, kind of by, I'm going to play hard and you just have to follow me. Like Mayer is somebody that seems like always can just kind of read the room and direct where his energy where it needs to go. Now, in terms of the encore play, like yes, Mayer at times processes the game slow, like turnovers are going to happen, yada yada. I fully expect that to develop, but if we're considering Mayer's going to be kind of handed the keys and potentially next season to this offense, like some of those qualities today of just like not shying away from the moments, being able to make some of the reads that he needed to, like not being scared really at all, and also like I feel like he has a calmness to him, but not in the sense of like it's like a controlled calmness, if that makes sense. Like I think some guys are calm just because like they don't really have emotion. I don't think Mayer's that. It's more of just like he understands emotionally kind of what needs to happen and what doesn't. And for a team that at times it can lack maybe a vocal leader, like I think Mayer probably can step up in some of those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that I think he needs to work on going into next year, if he is going to be, the guy running the offense, is I do think he has to be a stronger dribbler. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely.
Because I was kind of expecting him to be like a better dribbler at this point. Like, because I know from the competition that he played in, I just kind of assumed, and it's just a different style of play here. But like his passing is really like you see his vision, you see his ability to shoot. I think he's got the body type to play, match up defensively with different guys. He plays with energy. I like his vocalness on the court, in the huddle, even in the tunnel. Yeah. But the dribbling, I think, is going to be his biggest point of emphasis.
Yeah, and that's something that can develop. He's a very loose dribbler. I do think it goes back to like I think he doesn't quite process the game as quickly as obviously like Braden or some of those other lead guards that Purdue has had. And so like he tried to utilize that looser handle to give him time to understand what he needs to do, where the ball needs to go. You could probably argue it's not quite the same as Braden freshman year, but like Braden had some of those qualities his freshman season. Braden was a better processor than what Mayer is right now, but I do think there is some overlap. Also, just want to kind of bring this up because I've been seeing a few comments of like Braden's bench minutes were bad. Purdue was -1 in Braden's bench minutes. Like, I don't get the comments about that because like I don't think Braden's bench. Like they were -1 in the 5 minutes he was on the bench. I also thought like Mayer was good enough to at least just like maintain. And so, yeah, like that's if TKR is the biggest positive from this game. Like again, Mayer wasn't perfect, but there is I think a lot to like of like what he can become long term, and you're hoping that right like come March, there's a reasonable chance that Mayer has a random 14-point game. Something like that, right? And can just kind of help. He's not going to do it every game, but like a Sweet 16 where Braden maybe starts off slow, like I wouldn't shock me if Mayer comes in, gets like 12 points, 4 assists, and just kind of helps win Purdue those minutes.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move it along. I don't know who else you want to go to. I know we haven't talked about. I mean, we have talked about Fletcher, but we haven't highlighted him. Is there anybody like we don't have to go through every player? The only other observation that I want to make. That I've been saying it. I might have said this on the air, but I've been saying it a few times off the air. And now after I I am going to ask directly because I just want to know if it's my eyes playing tricks on me. So maybe I'm skipping ahead to some players that are more deserving to talk about. But this is just a novice fan in the stands observation that I have when I go to games. And that is when I watch Jack Benner warm up, his shot does not have the same arc that it does in games. I feel like his warm-up shots, to me, look like of a more natural arc when he's just catch and shoot, catch and shoot, catch and shoot. I have a video of it. I was standing right behind him. But in the game, I feel like the arc is like so much higher. And I just feel like that there's some correlation there of why I'm not seeing like I think he can be a lights out 3-point shooter on this team. I think he will be at some point once he like really gets comfortable in games. But I don't know if I'm going crazy here, but I feel like his shot looks different in warmups than it does in games. And I'm not going to put you on the spot because I didn't tell you to watch this, Joe, but that's something that's an observation I've made here over the last couple months.
Yeah, I'll try to remember to look out for that next time I'm here.
I'm gonna ask him about it. Because maybe I'm completely wrong, but I just find that interesting. I don't know what it is about it, but that's what I'm seeing personally.
Yeah, like you said, I don't know for sure. It is like I think he's shooting 26% from 3 during conference play, and that's just
zero, dude. I'm telling you, you watch him in warmups. He's one of the best 3-point shooters I've ever seen. Ever. I know it is within him, but then when the game starts, it just looks different. And it's just, to me, I'm going to chalk it up to freshman nerves. That's like literally what I'm going to chalk it up to, because I know he is capable of being the best 3-point shooter on this team. He is that talented.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you. And then long term, he's going to be there. Like, he's shooting 26% from 3 during conference play, and he's still on the entire season, which includes conference play, 43%. Like, think about that for a second. He is shooting 43% from 3 during the entire season. When you filter just 4 conference games, he is 26%. So that means he's shooting 60% of the other.
And that's the hard part about tonight. Like, tonight's the kind of night that if the game was closer, I know they went small at one point in the second half out of desperation, but really Painter did not have the option to go small once Michigan went on that run. No. you like, because you're already outsized and outlengthed when you're playing Michigan straight up with the lineup you have. But like, they really just got handcuffed with being able to bring Benner in and go small until it got to the point where they kind of had to, just to try to give Michigan a different look.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. Like, you can't go small when you're already giving up 14 second chance points in the first half. Like, that's just not really an option. Or if it is, then it's like you're just basically selling out and like, hey, we're just going to bomb away from 3 and figure it out from there. And that's obviously not what Purdue, I think, wanted to do either. So like, yeah, I don't think going small, but like, I don't think going small was an option. But at the same time, like, I don't know. It's nice that there's that thing in the bag that they could go to if they want to. I don't know. It's one of those, like, I think it's very matchup dependent that when Purdue can go to it or not.
Yeah. Jason Depew here asking in the chat, is Kraig doing interviews? Yeah, he's underneath at the tunnel. He probably, at this point, it looks like he probably won't join us here tonight. And that's okay. He's working hard underneath. He's probably getting the press conference stuff uploaded to our YouTube channel. So stay tuned for all that content. He's put up a few quotes on Twitter, which I could provide to you now if I pull up my phone here real quick while it's topical. But he basically, from some of the things they were heard, here was from Braden Smith. He said, I think Michigan is a great defensive team. They didn't do anything anyone else hasn't done. They're just bigger and stronger. That was Coach Painter on Michigan's defense on Braden Smith. Let me elaborate there. And then Lendenborg says Michigan's game plan was to put length on Smith and limit his passes to 3-point shooters. If they could limit threes, they'd come out with the win. And that's exactly what happened here tonight. So, credit to Michigan. They're damn good. So Where else you want to take this? We got Fletcher. You got a few other players to kind of roll through, and then we can call it a night.
Yeah, I mean we can jump to Fletch. There it is. 11 points, 1 of 1 from 2, 2 of 5 from 3, 3 of 3 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, and assist, a turnover, a steal. Like the 3 in transition was a very bad decision. Outside of that, like I don't have a much either way. Like he knocked down his first 2 jumpers. It was like, oh, could this be the lawyer game? I think Michigan adjusted a little bit to just make sure he couldn't get loose. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Lawyer was like getting attacked defensively. I don't know. Just I don't have much on him, to be honest.
Well, I mean, he started out the game hot. He made his first 2 baskets. So like, I always love when Fletcher, hits those big shots to get the crowd into it early. Most of the time, my mom's made this observation. When when Fletcher hits his first few shots, he normally has like a really big game. So that didn't necessarily happen here tonight. As I said earlier in the show, when he took that 3 to try to go on a run early in the first, or not early in the first half, but in the first half when they started to build that deficit, he tried to shoot a 3 to like get them back in. It was like a pump fake, got his guy past him, and then he airballed it because he was rushing it. I didn't have a problem with that one because I want Fletcher to be aggressive, but then the one in the second half in transition, that one was ill-advised. That was a big moment in the game where there's still a healthy amount of minutes left that you needed a bucket there. You absolutely had to get a bucket there, and instead you don't. It goes the other way. So you kind of live by the 3, die by the 3 in that regard, and I want Fletcher being more aggressive than not, but that was ill-advised, and I know Painter was not happy with it just watching his reaction on the sideline. But moving to the next player, just to try to finish this up here, but from after what we saw from Jakari Harris at Iowa, for him to only come away with 2 points in this game, like they've got to find a way to make him get him to have a bigger impact on a game-to-game basis. It has to happen. He is, somebody that can make dividends on the defensive end. You saw it at the end of the game where they were trying to scratch and claw their way to get it under 10. He obviously can knock down threes. He's somebody that can drive to the rim. They have to figure out how to make Jakari Harris, his role has to be bigger on a game-to-game basis. It can't be once every 4 games that we get a big – like he's got to be a staple to this, in my opinion.
I think – and so I want to agree with your sentiment, and same could be applied to CJ, right? I think – I'll throw up the stats and we can just lump them together, right?
We always do.
Always do. CJ, 3 points, 1 of 4 from 3, a rebound, a block, a steal. Jakari, 2 points, 1 of 1 from 2, 0 of 1 from 3, rebound, assists, 3 steals, no turnovers. I do think the way Michigan was playing their defense, like it limits those types of players a lot in this game where, right, Jakari and CJ in certain spots can kind of break guys down off the dribble or a little bit, or CJ especially to get to the mid-range, Jakari maybe get downhill a little bit. This wasn't one of those games to me. But I do agree with your sentiment in general that, like, if Purdue could just get even, like, I actually don't know what they're averaging on the season. So I was going to say 6 or 7 points. Like, if you could get 10 points between them a game, like, that's a really big win for Purdue. Now, I'm going to look up their averages, and they probably could average that combined or something. CJ's averaging 8.4 points a game. Never would have guessed that. Jakari's at 5. So I don't know. I guess more of just, like, it feels very boom or bust for them. Like, I would rather just have, like, almost rather just have, like, 12 points every game between the two than, like, 21 game and 4 the next, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That's what I'm getting at. Like, I just, at this point in the season, how we're not getting production from those guys in a game like this with the amount of minutes they play is disconcerting. And I thought the last couple wins, Nebraska and then specifically Iowa, I thought we started to turn the corner. And I agree with somebody in the chat that's like, this is reminding me of Heidi and Colvin. And I think that kind of, if Purdue gets knocked out in March Madness, ultimately I think this is going to be the main thing people point to. Not to say that, like, if they had kept Heidi and Colvin that this team would be different. But at the end of the day, their roles are very similar in like what they need. Like the same way we lump those two guys together, I feel like we lump these two. And last year, when it did feel like, while at this point a year ago, we didn't feel like maybe Purdue could get to a Final Four, by the time they got to the tournament, Heidi and Colvin had elevated their game so much that all of a sudden they were feeling like they could find their way to a Final Four. They could almost beat Houston, right? You've got to have contributions from CJ Cox and Jakari Harris, and they're different players than Heidi and Colvin. They're not as long. They're not as athletic, but they got to have the same kind of impact on a game. When I'm at this point, I'm like you. I'm talking about March right now. When we get to March, these two guys got to have production in every one of these games the way Heidi and Colvin started to elevate their game at the end of last year. If not, then you're putting way too much pressure on your big three to do it all. These two guys got to come up big for this team, and it's upon the coaching staff to find a way to make sure they're inserted in the game.
Yeah, and I think it would be like the comparison's fair between last year with Heidi and Colvin. I miss Heidi, man. Purdue needs Heidi on this team. But like it should almost be easier for Colvin or for CJ and Jakari because like this thing with Heidi and Colvin is neither of them could create their own shot off the dribble. Like it just wasn't in their bag other than one or two straight line drive dribbles right to the rim when there was like no defense. Like CJ and Jakari have a little bit more to them where they don't have the size or the length, and I think that does hurt obviously defensively, but offensively like they should have a little bit more wiggle and ability to kind of create their own, or not even create their own, but like better take advantage of rotated defenses. And I don't know if I expect that to pop up this year. That might be more of a next year thing at this point. Yeah, and I don't know if it involves just like specifically running more stuff for them or what. Because, like I said, in this game specifically, I think it's hard to get those two going with how Michigan plays defense. But in general, like, yeah, you need some contribution from them on a consistent basis to circle this back to the beginning of the show, right? What was my opening statement was about? It was like, I think at the end of the day, this Purdue team at their best level can win a national championship. They have no margin of error. One way to get at least a little bit margin of error would be to get contributions from guys like CJ and Jakari. And it's not that they have to put up 20 combined, like just gives you something. And again, I don't know if that's more of like they just have to, like Purdue has to give up some possessions and just scheme for them a bit or what.
All right. Well, do you have anybody else you want to highlight?
Let's talk about the bigs because we haven't, and I think we should.
Okay.
Clough, 4 points, 1 of 4 shooting, 2-4 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal. Jacobson, 2 points on 1 of 4 shooting, 3 rebounds, 2 blocks. Like, I think they both had some positive moments, but overall, those two going 2 for 8 with pretty much every single one of those shots for the most part coming at the rim. Like, that's another thing that's just incredibly difficult to try and overcome. It wasn't a great game from either of them. You had to keep them in because if you went small early on, you were just going to get even more torched on the glass. And yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to call that out. Specifically the 2 of 8. Like the 2 of 8 with pretty much all the shots coming at the rim. Like that's a tough one to overcome too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let's, sorry for not getting to this earlier. Kruder Schmidt, $5 super chat said, if I had a nickel every time Purdue airballed a 3 off a steal and Michigan hit a 3, I'd have 2 nickels. Not a lot of nickels, but it sucks that it happened twice. Yeah, absolutely. That was a big swing of momentum there. And Max did correct us earlier. Apparently, it is a punter's chance.
Let's go.
Punter is British for better. I learned something new every day. Normally, I'm pretty good with this kind of stuff.
I believe you.
I always thought it was a puncher's chance, like referencing like boxing. And, you know, a puncher's chance. Like you're facing a heavyweight, you got a puncher's chance. You sneak one in, you knock him out. Maybe you shouldn't have won, but apparently it is punter's chance. And that honestly shocks me. So shout out to the chat.
There it is.
Jeff Goodman's on this court right now. I don't know if I should yell at him to get off the court, but I like my instinct is to yell, get off the court, Goodman. That's just like,
well,
if I was like, that's what I would do. Like if I just reacted and spoke before I thought. Like I would just yell, "Get off the court, Goodman." I know
Good
everybody
self-control there. Good self-control.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that wraps things up for tonight. We got IU coming up on Friday. Back. That's okay. Yell at him. We got IU back here on Friday night. I will be back here at Mackey as well with Joe and Kraig, who do a tremendous job all season. House is going to be rocking. So I'm excited for it. I'm still contemplating yelling, "Get off the court, Goodman." That's why I'm stalling right now. I think
no, not worth it.
But yeah, it's a tough loss, but I think Purdue, is still in good shape to try to secure a 2 seed here going into March. I think 1 seed is off the table at this point. I think winning.
Yeah, probably have to run the table and win the Big Ten tournament to have like a chance. Yeah, I would assume
winning the Big Ten feels off the table for most teams.
Yes.
I think Michigan might have secured the Big Ten here tonight. To be quite honest with you, I know they've got some games here coming up. They got Duke here coming up
Saturday.
Saturday. So that'll be a really interesting matchup when you talk about. I know I think it's like the top 4 teams in the country are playing each other on Saturday, right? So that'll be interesting. Blake Whitmer.
Yeah, there you
here
go.
We go. Yeah,
both are proper idioms. Punter's chance, British gambling idiom, and puncher's chance. Worst boxer can still win with 1 lucky blow. Both are about luck in some ways. Always have a chance. So there you go.
Okay.
We were both right.
We were both right. I'm getting bribed.
I know we just got a super chat, but
yeah.
I was just because I'm not monitoring the chat like that much. I know there's been some Michigan fans in here. Do your thing, whatever. I don't know if you're here from UM Hoops, but if you aren't, I do work for UM Hoops as well. So I'll have a breakdown of this game. Go check that out for the Michigan fans who are in here.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's unbiased work.
They haven't been as
very
bad.
Good work, in my opinion.
You do amazing job with UM Hoops, even though I saw them here today, and it's like, don't try to. You're a Purdue guy first. It's not about Boilers in the stands. I'm not trying to claim territory on Joe, but don't let them infect your mind with the good work you do for them over there. But you do a great job. And that's the whole point is there's been a lot of Michigan fans here in the chat. I had to kick a couple because they were just annoying me. Wasn't really anything personal. You annoyed me. So you got put in timeout for a minute. But I will still say, while there has been a lot of Michigan fans here in the chat, they're still not as annoying as Illinois fans. So you're going to have to step up your game because I have declared Illinois fans, it's not even close. They are running away with being the most obnoxious fan base in the Big Ten. Do you agree? Because Joe, you cover the whole Big Ten. Do you agree with this? Because I know I'm a little closer to Illinois fans because of the Chicago Bears coverage and Chicago sports coverage I do. So a lot of the people that I kind of cross-pollinate with the following on social media is Illinois-centric people. But I just feel like Illinois fans are way more annoying than any other fan base, including Michigan fans.
I don't know how honest I want to be in this or not.
Be honest.
If you want me to be honest, the way that I have realized as I've now covered the Big Ten and I've been in, obviously they're bigger, like Illinois, Purdue, IU, Michigan State. Like those are some of the bigger fan bases. What I have realized is there is good and bad in every single fan base. Are you going to do the
Switzerland thing? You're going to do the Switzerland thing?
I think it's true though. Like, cause as I was like just purely more Purdue fan early in my reporting or whatever career, like I had those thoughts about Illinois, but then as I've like learned some more people in the Illinois fan base and that, and like, it's like, oh yeah, there are some that are super annoying, but there's some that are great. I think you say that about every fan base. Like I think on any given night, legitimately all 18 fan bases, like on any given night, any one of them can be the worst, like Purdue included, to be honest. Like I think any single fan base can be the worst.
It's fine. You know what?
You just got to find the good out of the bad, and I've been trying to find the good.
You know what, Joe? You know what you're doing right here? You're probably too young to remember this quote, but Michael Jordan was once asked if he was, Republican or Democrat, and he was like, Republicans buy Nikes too. And that's what you're doing right now. You serve the whole Big Ten, and so you're not going to alienate.
It is my
any of the
truthful
fan
thoughts.
I will say Purdue fans can be pretty bad, but they normally they're a lot like Bears fans in that they eat their own more than they go after. They do go after others, but they're worse about their own team and their own fans. And they can be negative and gloom and doom about their own circumstances versus, some of the other ones. So, all right, Joe, that's fine. You can do the Switzerland thing. But I just feel like Illinois' fan base is the worst, and I will stand by that.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, I think that wraps things up for tonight. You got any other thing you want to add, or you want to wrap it? You got any final thoughts or anything?
No, I think just kind of repeating up the top. I think there are obvious flaws with this Purdue team. I think it's fair to not think that this is a championship team. I still think at their ceiling, this is a team that can do it. And I will then again repeat, and I'm not saying it'll happen for sure. Purdue was one bounce away from beating a Houston team that nobody gave them any, the whole week. Everybody, a lot of even some Purdue fans, were saying oh yeah, there's no chance Purdue beats Houston. They were one bounce away from beating Houston in the Sweet 16 last year, and they would have played a Tennessee team that absolutely no-showed in the Elite Eight against Houston. So maybe stretching this a little bit by saying they were one bounce away from going to the Final Four, but they were one bounce away from having a good matchup in the Elite Eights. And again, that doesn't mean that just because it happened last year, it's going to happen this year. But Purdue was on a similar script. Purdue lost 6 of their last 9 games last year to close the regular season in the Big Ten tournament, and they still almost did it because at the end of the day, when you have the superstar power that Purdue does, they can go out and win any game. But at the same time, to just close it out one more time, they have to be close to perfect to be able to do it, and that is a whole lot of pressure. They can. But you compare them to a Michigan team. Michigan can have an off night and still beat most teams in the country. Purdue does not have that luxury. So at some point you just got to kind of figure it out and try to go win some ball games.
Yes, sir. Well said. Well, I'll let you have the final word on that so I don't do the Midwestern goodbye. We'll hit the road here. We appreciate everybody hanging out. Hit the like button. Once again, subscribe to the channel. Shout out to Remington Auto Wash, as always, for their support to the show. Shout out to Kraig for his hard work underneath, getting the interviews and doing all that. So we'll be back. Joe and Kraig will have a preview show for the IU game coming up here tomorrow. That'll be released.
Probably.
So stay on the lookout for that. And then Friday we'll be back here at Mackey Arena for the big matchup against the Indiana Hoosiers. And if this crowd is anything like it was tonight, I look forward to that affair, which, hey, we know from the last time they played Indiana, certainly no gimme. So they got to get their payback on their rivals here on Friday, get bounced back and focus on trying to get the best seed they can possibly get for March Madness. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you once again to Jason Depew for the $10 super chat that says thanks for the show, guys. Everyone hit the like button. Appreciate all of you guys, as always, for your support. Even you, Michigan fans that tuned in. Hopefully you enjoyed the program. Once again, make sure you're following Joe Jackson on Twitter at JoeJacksonCBB. He is doing extensive breakdowns of all Big Ten teams, but obviously, as he said earlier, doing some pretty in-depth research and content from a Michigan basketball standpoint with Hoops. So make sure you're following Joe because he doesn't just do Purdue. He does Feed the Post, Hoops, and everything else across the board. One of the brightest basketball minds I've ever been around, and I sincerely mean that. So we're lucky to have you, man. We love you, Joe, and we love Kraig. Enjoy your night. Sorry Purdue couldn't get it done, but we'll pick up the pieces and see where they're at here on Friday. Take care, everyone. Have a great night, and always, boiler up.